Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week we watched Mausoleum, which was made in 1983, but absolutely looks like it was made sometime in the mid-70s. It was picked by Scott. Scott, why did you pick Mausoleum?
So you know how I like to give long-winded explanations for everything, right?
Of course, I have to edit them down all the time.
Strap in for more editing. So, how to start this? I knew that Vinegar Syndrome was going to be doing the Tammy and the T-Rex gore version, the gore cut release, because you told me about it last year, and I thought that there was some day before Black Friday when they had like a VIP special or something where you could get it earlier than when I got my copy. And so I missed it by a day, but I was like, fuck. And so I was on Vinegar Syndrome looking through their amazing list of stuff and getting ideas for the show. So 2020 is going to be the year of Vinegar Syndrome on Horror Movie Night. Sorry, and you're welcome. But Mausoleum was on there, and I'm like, oh, I've been meaning to watch that for such a long time. And I saw that it was actually on Prime, and I thought, well, it's on Prime, so we can watch it for free. Why not? So I watched it back in, I don't know, something like October or November for the first time. And I got about 20 minutes in and I knew that this was perfect for us. And then I message you guys and I say something along the lines of, guys, we have to watch this movie because there are hungry demon titties. And so the best part, also the most shameful part of me rewatching this for this episode was because I didn't take notes the first time. So the shameful part was Prime asking me if I wanted to watch Mausoleum again. It's like, we know what you do.
So, two additions to that story. One, fun fact, this past year, I had to go on through every one of our episodes and I added a buy at link so that if you want to buy a copy of the movie that we're talking about, you have a link to do so. I do that at work, and Vinegar Syndrome is currently blocked at my work for pornographic materials. It's the only company that we review movies for where that's a situation.
But it's just because they have that like softcore erotica from the 70s, I think or maybe some from the 60s too. But
they got
it's like
some puppet porn in there too. They got Let My Puppets Come, which is the only porn that I own, actually.
That's not true.
It is.
That's not the only one. I still don't buy it.
Yeah, that's the only one that I own.
He doesn't own those casting couch videos. Those are just rented.
I swore you had I swore you had the Batman parody.
No, I borrowed it from Ed out of curiosity, and that was Jaws. This isn't Jaws XXX because I needed to know how they turn Jaws into a sexy porno. But the other thing was that I watched this yesterday, and I was supposed to hang out with a friend, and they asked me, when are you able to hang out? And I was like, I got to finish watching this movie for the podcast. They asked what movie, and they said, I'm reading some reviews for Mausoleum. Here's my favorite quote so far. I thought that Bobby Breezy, Evil Spawn, did a great performance. All you see is her full nudity. I definitely like that.
Oh, man. Do we want to jump into some bios for the two main characters here?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, man. I actually copied and pasted these from IMDb because they are... No, I can't remember if I got these on IMDb or Wikipedia, but... Oh, man. Let's start with Bobby Breezy, which is such a stupid name. Buxom and beautiful blonde actress Bobby Breezy had a sadly short-lived reign as a scream queen in a handful of enjoyably trashy 80s low-budget horror pictures. Bobby was born in 1947, also the year that my mom was born, so that kind of makes this odd and awkward, in San Diego, California. She was a music teacher and one-time Playboy bunny prior to embarking on an acting career. Breezy gave a solid and impressive performance as a sweet and lovely young lady who became possessed by an evil, sexually voracious demon in the Fun Fright feature Mausoleum. And in the parentheses, Bobby was nominated for a Saturn Award as Best Actress for her fine acting in this film.
I was hoping you were going to say in parentheses it says citation needed.
Dude, there are no citations on IMDb bios. Brezzi was quite funny as Smeg's mom in the crudely amusing Surf Nazis Must Die, and had a memorably sexy bit as a luscious but lethal temptress in the crummy Ghoulies. Bobby tackled a semi-autobiographical starring role as a faded, aging B-movie starlet who transforms into a murderous humanoid insect monster after taking an experimental youthful serum in the delightfully dreadful Evil Spawn. She also popped up in guest spots on the TV shows Charlie's Angels, BJ and the Bear, The Love Boat, Simon and Simon, and The Fall Guy. She had a recurring part on the popular daytime soap opera Santa Barbara. In real life, Bobby Brezzi is an extremely charming and well-educated woman who plays the piano.
I really appreciate that every one of these movies has like these big long describers in front of them, like just like in the buffo performance,
Yeah.
but then it gets to Ghoulies and it's just like in the crummy Ghoulies.
Yeah,
Like,
that person out there is so
ooh.
fucking funny writing that shit, and I'm laughing at how dumb they are. But it gets
oh
better.
my God, it's great.
I got a 2-paragraph one for the husband.
Oh Jesus.
His name's Marjo Gortner, and it's fucking wild. This is why you have to let me read the whole thing, and I'm so sorry. In his early career as a 4-year-old, world's youngest ordained minister, Hugh Marjo Ross Gortner became a miracle child extraordinaire. Preaching gospel from memory and performing faith healings, he drew capacity crowds as he barnstormed throughout the Bible Belt. Marjo, the name a combination of Mary and Joseph, eventually became disillusioned with what he considered a huge deception and withdrew from the scene entirely during his teen years. But his God-given talents for drawing an audience and public speaking were to be put to good use later on. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. He did a documentary called Marjo in 1972 based on his life as a fake evangelist. And then he did a bunch of bullshit like the extremely positive reviews helped him catapult him into films. Unfortunately, most of them, promising as they must have been, Earthquake, The Food of the Gods, Viva Knievel, and When You Coming Back, Red Rider, went on to become dismal failures, and his quest for stardom never materialized. I fucking wonder why. He stumbled through more films in the 80s, but even he, with his charismatic powers, couldn't save himself from coming off badly on such drivel as Mausoleum and Hellhole. Hellhole's on my list too. And his career sank into oblivion. Though his work as an actor has grown faint with time, Marjo will at the very least be remembered as the man who blew the whistle on evangelism. Who knows? Knowing Marjo, there is still some time for a second coming.
I'm hoping that the next line is like Marjo died and
No, he's alive. He's probably making money off of Trump, so there you go.
All right, we're looking into this, and here's the big thing. Before we dive into this movie, there was a text chat between the three of us. I don't think any of us know what the fuck is happening in most of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the least expository film I think I've seen in a really long time.
Is this the one that Kyle said that he watched it when he was sick and he was like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah, well, he fell asleep for the first half and then woke up during the second half. And he was like, I can't speak of the first half, but the second half seemed like it was perfect for horror movies. And like most of my notes are just confusion. Like the first note that I have written down is, I'm confused by this car explosion. What is happening in this movie?
That's your first note is all the way at at that car explosion?
Yeah, like 15, 20 minutes into the movie. Because I was just like trying to wrap my head around what was going on. Like, this is
don't even try.
Movie. I thought that this was I had no clue this was a possession movie. I didn't know what I thought this movie was, but it wasn't what we watched. But I had fun. But my God.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole point of it is that it's trying to be The Exorcist and like Fulci, but it's just shitty. You know, it's not a good film, and I didn't pick it because it's some sort of landmark of cinema.
You sure? I want to talk about. I know we're going to be jumping ahead here, but I mean, there's really no linear plot to follow with this movie.
Who gives
anyway.
a shit?
Let's talk about The Landscaper.
Oh, man. Did you write down notes?
I wrote down a couple notes. So, like, there's a couple things that are weird here. First of all, is just the whole seduction scene. And then like the house starts reacting to the fact that Susan is clearly possessed with her glowing green eyes. But what I love is he's like, "Is everything okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, just get to work." And then it's like a minute and a half of just this random montage of like a day in the life.
Yeah. He is hilarious because this is his montage. He sloppily eats a sandwich, and he's sitting on a rope swing, by the way. He takes a nap on the dock, and then he sharpens his axe.
Yeah,
he doesn't do any real work.
It's so weird, and like the music, like it's not even like, you've got like an 80s track behind it, so it seems like it is the soundtrack is mixed so low, so you hear every single sound of him like like nomming on the sandwich, or like as he's trying to like cut things with his, and it's just like, what is this? Like I was just like so thrown off by everything that was happening in this fucking movie.
Oh man, it's great.
And then they fuck. And like it's just like he finishes his work, they have sex, and then she does a really shitty like rake across the face.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so funny when he's like, I have had many women. Some of them have been pros. You do better. Come on now. Let's go again. And I'm like, you fat fuck. There's no way that you could get it up a second time.
Yeah. Well, he just rolled over and tried to let her do
he's like, come, let's get back to it. And then I'm like, okay, well, no wonder you got stamina. You just lay there and grunt. Wow, now I know what Brian's sex life is like.
I love your impression of him.
Yeah, because it's, oh my god,
it's like kind of like Russian almost. Yeah. Like, please come. No,
I don't think that any creepy Russian dude is going to ask a woman to come. He's not going to care anything about her pleasure.
Did you come? It was a rhetorical question.
Oh man, let's cut all that out. He goes, "Are you sleeping?" And she goes, "I never sleep." I'm like, oh Jesus, that's creepy. He's not even fazed by it. Not at all.
She has so many, her possessed lines. She has a line where she's just like, "God can't help you now."
I don't know why, but it's because, when she's possessed and she tells the gardener that she's like, let's go to the work shed or whatever and bang. He like grabs her ass and they're walking off screen. And I have a note that says Bobby Brezzi skipped leg day because her legs look like fucking toothpicks.
I feel like if you wanted someone to understand the confusing nature of this entire movie, and I will admit that like every once in a while I would look away at my phone. I was just like, So I don't.
Yahtzee though.
Yeah, I think they were at a mall.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a kill in a mall that is like, you just need to watch that 2-minute scene, and that is what this movie feels like for a full like hour.
Yeah. Was that his spine? Or did he fall through a Christmas
fell through
tree?
No, it was like this weird modern piece of architecture or something. It's not a Christmas tree.
No, it looked like something that the wife in Beetlejuice would design.
Yes,
I didn't know what it was.
Well, and it's like there's a whole bunch of stuff because it's he drops and the drop takes forever. Then you have this spinning cam as he's careening closer to everything, and then there's like a minute of just a shot of blood dropping on the camera with a weird sound effect of the blood, like blip 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 blip. Like, it's like, what is happening?
And that's the thing. Like, so Full Moon Pictures, right? They are like, oh, we need to get a movie a certain length, so we'll just draw out the introduction and the credits, and like that's the way to do it. And I feel like this movie just made every scene significantly longer than it needed to be.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I like that blood scene feels so out of place because I'm watching it. I'm like, is this gonna come up? Like, is this supposed to be important? Am I supposed to, like? is something going to happen
Nothing
with this
is
blood?
important in this movie. That's the whole point. It's
nothing.
basically why I mentioned it being Fulci-esque, because things happen for no reason. They are never brought up again. People react in very odd ways, and it's just like this. This is evil. Let's put it on film, kind of thing. But the weirdest part about that mall scene that you're ignoring, or maybe you haven't gotten to it yet, is it's twofold. One, I never knew that becoming possessed by an ancient evil would make you a fucking klepto, but for whatever reason, she decides that it's worth murdering this guy over a shitty painting. And second of all, the entire mall food court sees this guy float and then fall to his death.
I was thinking about that too. I was like, these movies, and I feel like it's all the time with these like low budget shitty movies, is like I can't take my brain out of the reality of like, yeah, the police reports are going to have hundreds of eyewitnesses saying that a man was suspended in air for a little bit. So the demon gets removed from Susan at the end of the movie, and she's walking away with her psychiatrist / uncle, I guess, and like it's supposed to just be like, well, everything's okay, but like her husband's dead, her aunt is dead, like there's someone is going to be held accountable for all these deaths, and there was really no one besides her uncle who's going to be like, oh, she was possessed, it's cool, don't charge her for it. Like it's just so fucking weird. Everything is weird. And then as Scott mentioned at the top, her boobs grow demon face
twice.
Yeah, that was pretty dang. That was super dang. They looked they reminded me of do you remember the South Park episode that is parroting Better Off Dead?
Yes.
That's exactly what it reminded me of.
Oh my god, yeah, where she lifts up her
shirt.
She's
got like, how did you distract him? I showed him these. It's
Knowing them, that is actually a Mausoleum reference. It has to be.
I believe it. I mean, they parodied Better Off Dead.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the ending, because it really annoyed me. Because so he shows up and she's playing with a doll, and then he was like, I'm going to put this crown on your head, the same crown that Jesus wore. And he put it on her head. And then I was like, okay, so there's going to be a big fight scene, because there's no way that they're going to do a 3-minute morph scene that just shows the demon like leaving her body. Well, they did a 3-minute morph scene where the demon just expels from her body. And that is virtually like the end of the movie. I think the reason I got so mad is because Jade had gotten out of the shower. I needed to finish it because I had to wake up early to watch another movie. And I was like, I can't fast forward because something is going to happen.
Nope.
And it was a 15-minute ending that was just drawn out. Everything was just so drawn out.
So I remember one of the things with Kyle was that he fell asleep, and he's like, she has this psychiatrist, and then all of a sudden she calls him uncle. And I don't know if that was established earlier in the movie, but it blew my mind when it happened. So like the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, all right, where do they establish that he's her uncle? And maybe I missed it, but I don't think they do until she says, hello, uncle, towards the end of the movie.
I feel like this movie was like the movie that they were making in Return to Horror High, where it's like each new day they're getting new pages and nothing matters.
Or it's like, I like to believe, honestly, more than anything, I like to believe that they shot this movie out of sequence, like you do on most movie sets, and then the money dried up, and they were like, well, we're just gonna have to cut together what we got and see if we can get it to 90.
Well,
So,
I don't think that that's a terrible assumption, but here's a little bit more information. On the DVD commentary, Bobby Brezzi revealed the producers set up bleachers for crew members to watch the filming of her sex scenes. So, first of all, that was the responsibility of the production companies. Their goal was just to see some boobies. And second of all, it was produced by the quote unquote yuppie don Michael Franzese, former capo whatever of the Colombo crime family. It was allegedly a form of money laundering. Whether it was a passion for film or simply a business venture is unknown.
And like, here's the thing, listeners, I'm sure you already know this, but just to be sure, on most film sets, when you're filming a sex scene,
it's
called a closed set. Yeah. It's the actors, the director, and the director of photography, and maybe one lighting guy. It's the smallest setup you could possibly do. Bleachers are not usually part of that setup. So.
Come, let's go again. The sex scenes aren't sexy. There's nothing sexy about this movie.
There's nothing really good about this movie, but I'm going to listen to the commentary track because I bought the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray a while ago for this.
Wait, you bought it because we were going to do this episode?
You had been talking about doing it for a while, and it was one of those, like, when I see them at conventions, it's usually like buy 3, get the 4th one free type thing. So I was like, fuck it, we're going to do Mausoleum one of these days. So it's been sitting on my shelf to watch for like at least 6 months, waiting for you to make the pick. And yeah, I'll probably listen to the commentary track and then never watch it again.
I almost feel bad. That you bought this, but
it was free.
It's not necessarily free because it's still like you're getting a deal, but you're not getting, there's just something to be said about your addiction.
It's not the worst thing that's on my shelf.
It's not a deal. So don't convince yourself you got a deal. That's like going to a restaurant. It's like, oh, you got this, so you're going to get a moldy cucumber. And you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. It's not a deal. You still lost.
Hey, man, I got a moldy cucumber, and what did you get?
Not food poison.
I will take 1 food poison, please.
All right. So what is your guys' double features with the bizarre Mausoleum? Scott, your pick. You go first.
Phantasm.
Okay. I think it's fair.
It's the only thing that came to mind, and I feel like I need a palate cleanser. Like I don't love the original Phantasm, as both of you guys and probably everybody that's ever listened to this show knows. I fucking love Phantasm too, but I would pair it with the first Phantasm because the first Phantasm has a bunch of shit happen that makes no sense.
And also a really sweet song where two guys just chill on the porch with some guitars for a minute and a half to fill time.
And there's nudity that makes no sense in that one too. So it's just a better Mausoleum. It's Mausoleum, but with better production value and a little bit more competency. Thanks, Don Coscarelli.
All right, Brian, how about you? What's your double feature for this bad boy?
Demon Wind.
What?
Okay.
You fucking hate Demon Wind. I love Demon Wind.
I didn't like this movie much either. But
aren't you trying to like salvage your night?
Yeah, no. Brian's gonna be kicking himself when I say what my double feature is. Then
what is it?
Because the demon reminded me of some of the monsters in Black Roses, so I was like, man, I'm gonna watch Black Roses after this.
Oh, that would be a good cleanse.
The other one that I had written down was There's Nothing Out There because Green Eyes.
Man, you could do like a triple feature, and that would be pretty solid, I think.
But you got to start with Mausoleum because no one's sticking around for Mausoleum. You got to get it out early and then reward that with Black Roses and There's Nothing Out There.
I don't know, man. Remember when we were talking about Bloody Murder 2? You were the guest host for that horror marathon, and they started with Bloody Murder.
Yeah, but then they followed it with Sleepaway Camp. So it was like you sit through Bloody Murder, but like for your pain, you get to enjoy Sleepaway Camp.
But most people don't have that kind of wherewithal. Like, fuck me, I wouldn't do it,
Yeah, but none of us are the people who would do like an all-night movie marathon. I certainly couldn't. Like sitting in a movie theater for 12 hours?
No, dude.
I can't. But I can barely sit in a movie theater for 2.
That's true.
I know. I pay so much when I have to watch a 2-hour movie or longer because I go to iPick because I need comfort and food to do that.
And bathroom breaks.
I hold in my pee and it's painful. That was like the one thing I didn't like about Midsummer is I was very painful holding in pee, but I couldn't complain because I had just sharted minutes before.
What?
Yep, I was there. I witnessed it. So speaking of sharting in a movie theater, what's something you guys saw you want to give a hey, check it out to?
Oh my God. I don't even know what to say because I'm still processing Brian sharting in Midsummer.
Well, while you think about Brian sharting in Midsummer, I'll knock this out real quick. I, over my winter break, saw a really, really good movie and a train wreck. So I saw Uncut Gems, which is just a 2-hour panic attack. Scott, you'd hate it. Brian, you'd love it. And then I needed to witness Cats. And Cats is... it is most certainly a film that someone took like a camera and filmed things and put it in a movie theater is what I can say about Cats.
It's a movie.
So like, here's the thing with Cats. There's a certain point in the movie where you're like, okay, I think I've gotten past how creepy these cats with human faces are. And it's right around that point that they introduce mice and cockroaches with human faces. And that's when I was like, I'm done. I can't do it. I just want Jennifer Hudson to sing Memories so I can go home. So, like,
Is Memories the last song?
Yeah, it's the last
song.
But yeah, like, so here's the thing. Cats actually, like, if you're thinking of it from a music standpoint, the soundtrack, there's a couple, like, people who can't sing. But for the most part, the music is good because, you know, it's Weber. But, like, the original concept for the movie, all the way up until the director who got hired, was Steven Spielberg producing, like, a 2D hand-drawn animated film. And then this director was like, no, we got to do motion capture humans with, like, cats with human faces. And if it had been a hand-drawn animation with this music, I think it would have been a much better movie because it's terrifying otherwise.
I'll never understand Hollywood.
I think it's like, hey, we're spending all this money, we're seeing them faces. Like,
this episode is just us, like, talking about the weird Italians. It's like the crime boss that did Mausoleum, Fulci, Matt Kelly is an Italian.
All right, so that's my what did I see? Obviously, I recommend Uncut Gems to most people as long as they can handle, like, 2 hours of a very stressful situation.
Yep, not for me. Sorry. I want to talk about two things. One, I made the mistake of finally going through my Amazon Prime queue and watching some shit that's been on it for a long time. Well, not watching, but just kind of dipping my toes into Astron 6's stuff. You know what Astron 6 is?
Oh, yeah, like
Manborg.
Manborg.
Yeah, I started watching Manborg and I was like, oh, this isn't from the 80s. What the fuck? And I maybe got 15 minutes in and it was just so dumb. And then I read up on who they were, and Father's Day sounded funny. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be like, I was picturing something kind of like Call Girl of Cthulhu. And, you know, our boy Chris LaMartina is fantastic. He's got a sense of humor. The guys at Astron 6 don't. They just somehow get funding to do these movies. And it was so bad. I forced my way through maybe 6 scenes just to kind of, you know, like fast forwarding and, you know, dicking around. And I just don't understand. Like, there's poverty in the world and there's injustice and strife. And then there's these fucking people that are getting paid to make these movies. Like, remember how bad Velocipaster was? These are worse. Mm-hmm. The good news is that Megan and I finally watched Hail Satan, the documentary that Brian was talking about last year. It was so good. It was just so wonderful. I highly recommend any listener that hasn't to check it out because it is. Megan has talked about Satanists like LaVeyan Satanism, not Crowley Satanism, because Crowley Satanism is ridiculous, but LaVeyan Satanism is just basically atheism with a theater degree, which is what Megan says. And when you watch that, you really get that sense of, okay, it truly is, because they're just political activists that use the idea of the devil as a mirror back on, like, Christian religion, in politics. So, you know, this is, I want to make a meme that's like, you know, watches Hail Satan once and then then shows me, like, joining the temple of Satanic Temple, because that's exactly what happened.
Oh man, I love that documentary. So I didn't watch anything new this week, but I had 2 rewatches. I rewatched the remake of Halloween to see how it would hold up.
Wait, which one?
I know that the newest one.
Oh, okay.
Because I wanted to see if I loved it, or if it was just like, oh wow, they remade Halloween, I get to see it in theaters. I think the first 2 acts hold up incredible, as a great Halloween, and they lost me at the 3rd act.
Yeah.
Seeing it a second time, it got a little goofy. And then I rewatched Empire Strikes Back.
Huh.
Great movie.
He's got a controversial
No,
Go for it.
I have to say it, man. I have to say it. Now, I grew up on I grew up during the era of episode 1, 2, and 3. And it is no secret that Jar Jar Binks is one of the most hated characters in Star Wars because he's so obnoxious. Chewbacca is the single-handed most obnoxious character in Star Wars. Every time he's on, it's just unnecessary groans and moans. He annoyed me the entire time. Other than that, I think it's a delightful film. That's my hot take for today.
I'm pretty upset with you right now.
I was going to say, hear that
He's
silence?
just annoying. He's just annoying. And what I did enjoy is like like Yoda is like the drunk in the street that, you know, used to be a cop but retired, you know?
All right, so that was Mausoleum 1983 as picked by Scott. And you know what, guys? I got a little spoiler alert for you. This movie brought me down, but you know what's going to pick me up? Singing. A whole lot of singing, a whole lot of dancing. What do you say we make a whole month dedicated to musicals? Who's with me?
I am.
All right, so February is
Spoiler
going to
alert.
be all musicals.
And I'm going to give the fans a spoiler because I know you hate to wait. We are just reviewing Sound of Music every week for the month of
Yeah, just
February.
Get ready
So-
for us to sing like Julie Andrews for 4 whole episodes.
I will say that at least half of the musicals that we're doing will be questionable how they fall into horror movie night, but there's not
really.
a whole lot of good horror musicals out there that are readily available.
What good is sitting alone in your room?
Oh, fuck me.
You're not even British.
All right, so tune in next week when we're going to do a horror musical sequel. Ooh. And we will be back. Peace.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. You're listening to the Geekscape Network.